When olive picking finishes, olive pruning starts. And that's not done with a pair of secateurs. It's done with a great chainsaw, which is really noisy, let me tell you. And then they light the fire of all the cuttings and you get absolutely swamped in olive smoke. These little things you don't realise when you visit somewhere in high season.
And of course, if the residents of Stupa were staying in Shoreham, there would be the equivalent for them, wouldn't there?
Possibly, yes.
Well, they'd say, oh, my word, the weirdnesses that go on here.
Yeah. Well, the postman arriving every week, wasn't he? And then you'd also get the dog out the back howling every time a siren went past.
Well, there you go, sirens and...
Yeah, lots of seagulls, that's what they noticed there.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Right, shall we crack on then?
Yes, I'm ready.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Tell me about your week.
It's been a while since we visited this topic, but within the next 4 to 5 shows, either I will move house or I won't. So half of me is preparing for the move house. Last week it was the passport. This week it was the optician and the haircut. I'm hovering on the brink between now and next week of organising the digitising of my files, my post going 100% digital and giving up the printer, as you know from yesterday. And irony of ironies, you're going to love this. I've given the upstairs woman who's, one of the horses in the race to buy the flat. I've given her a deadline of the 28th of February, and if she doesn't achieve it by 12 noon, really, on the 28th of February, which is just 4 days after this show goes out, she will be banned from the process. And last night, she sent me an email saying, time is of the essence. After 8 months of being in negotiation with me. It's like, I just deleted it. It's like, heaven's sake, go for it.
So she said time is of the essence.
No, she's chasing me now, if you can imagine the irony of that.
Did you? And you just deleted it, did you?
Well, I actioned what she did, but I didn't respond to it. Time is of the essence. You don't, kidding me. It's been of the essence for 8 months, as far as I'm concerned, and now you're just waking up to that. You can hear I've run out of breath to finish that sentence. I'm so exasperated with her.
It would make my voice go very high and squeaky.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't know whether I'm moving, but I'm preparing in case I have to move. That's the point. So I'm doing all of these things which are, locally based. So passport was in case I go abroad, haircut in case I don't live here anymore, optician in case I don't live here anymore, digital files and my post forwarding digitally in case I'm on the move semi-permanently for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and actually, I want to end up keeping this flat, if not living here. So it's a weird thing to be making preparations to move when I don't want to lose ownership, but sooner or later I'm going to move from here anyway. So I have these little dialogues with myself all day long about, oh, I love this flat, I don't want to move. And then my next sentence is, but if I've got to move, I mean, it's just such a weird thing. Somebody described it earlier in the week to me as being in limbo. But actually, I've got quite used to being in limbo. I quite like limbo now,
Limbo's become your comfort zone.
Yes, it has. Limbo is my comfort zone. I might even write a blog post with that topic later today.
Yeah, marvellous. So anything else about your week particularly?
I've got a couple more things, but I'm going to tell them to... Well, I'm going to tell you one more now, and then I've got 2 more in What Fueled Your Fire. I shared my newsletter on Facebook, and I said, if you like this writing, please will you sign up to receive my newsletter at my website? And then they immediately proceeded to do what everybody's done since you did that Facebook ads work for me, because what happens is the process is broken now that we're no longer sending them to carenext.leadpages.something in the middle. And I didn't know how to fix it because I have 2 web people, and one of them was Steve, who died, and one of them was Marion, who went on to run Sliver's World instead of doing my websites. So I just used to write back to these people. They would write me an email that says, your sign-up process is broken, but actually in the end you get an email saying you're on the list, which I knew perfectly well. So I all of them I reply and say, thank you so much for letting me know. Yes, I knew it didn't work, but I don't know how to fix it because Steve died and Marian's moved on. But actually over the weekend I thought, I'll try and go in and fix it. And it's the second thing I've tried to fix on MailChimp in a month. And I managed the first one, which was the footer code had a typo in it. And I'd lived with that for months because I didn't know how to fix it. But I managed to sort that out. And then I went in and I went through the process of, signing up and unsigning up and seeing what emails I got. And in the end, I worked out that there was one that you'd set up for me, cairncross.leadpages.something. And that was the one that they'd get in the error message about. So then I made that go away. And I think it works now. But anyway, the point of this story is I'm proud that I've achieved something technical that I thought was beyond me.
Oh, I'm proud of you too. I'm a little confused about why you didn't ask me to help you.
Well, because actually, I don't have a relationship with you and Sarah to do these things for me, and I don't like asking. I had a commercial relationship with Steve and Marion, and that made me more comfortable, to be honest. If you're asking for favours, it all gets a bit woolly.
I'm your mate. I'd love to help.
I know you're my mate. It was only that I discovered that it was to do with what you and I did together. But actually, the point is I fixed it. So that's all right. And because I fixed 2 things on MailChimp, I'm more confident about fixing things on MailChimp. But actually, I don't think there's anything more to fix on MailChimp now because it's the simplest thing since the simplest of things.
Yeah, the thing that Steve used to say to me every time whenever I asked him how to fix things like this was he'd send me to that website. Shall I Google that for you? Because
yes, well, that's what Marion often uses. If only there was a place you could go. Yeah. And actually, MailChimp's help is quite helpful. But I'm quite techie and I can fix most things if it's obvious. But this wasn't obvious. And the first one in the footer where I had to fix the typo, which I'd lived with for ages, which I think living with imperfection is actually quite good for me. So I wasn't bothered about either of these things because, if people notice a footer, an error, a typo in the footer, yeah, it's annoying, but, nobody's going to die. And if they get this error message in the middle, yeah, it's annoying, but actually they're still on the list. Do you know what I mean? It's broken, but not broken. It's imperfect, but it still works. So actually I wasn't bothered. Given what's happened to Steve and Marion, I wasn't bothered about the process. But I'm telling you one thing about my week is I'm quite chuffed that I've managed to solve 2 problems on my own.
That's very good. Just as a tip for everyone, it's always a good idea to Google your challenge because and then put in the last year. So you put in, change something footer MailChimp 2016, and then you put it in inverted commas, and so it would take your jumbled up query and it would find the most recent answer. And because Google's got such a powerful search engine, that it's often better to use Google as a search engine for a MailChimp query than it is to actually use the search function in MailChimp's help.
Tell us about your week.
Well, my week's been very exciting. I got the new book out, which was Mindset, Marketing and Money. And there was a little bit of a hiccup in that someone gave me a 2-star review because he didn't like the indented formatting, because he was looking at it vertically on a Kindle rather than landscape on a Kindle, and he didn't like the fact there was a lot of white space. So I looked at what Anthony had done, and sure enough, although my brain told me that Anthony had indented, actually Anthony hadn't indented his book. So I went back and fixed mine and then sent copies of it to everyone who told me.
Hang on a second. Who is Anthony?
Anthony Tilley. We talked about him in a previous episode where he turned his podcast into a book by transcribing the interviews, of which I was the first one.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And in my brain, when I read his book, it was indented. I was absolutely convinced he'd indented it, but it turned out not. And it turned out that it's okay on landscape because one of our lovely listeners told me it was fine for her. Lovely Margaret. Yeah. She contacted me to say, in fact, she did a 4-star review to say it was perfectly fine on her Kindle, and it was great content. So, but I spent a day scrambling around sorting that out, and then I sent Margaret and anyone else who contacted me a copy of the new version. So I thought that was only fair. But it did get to number 1 in the free Kindle chart for business and entrepreneurship, and it did get to number 4 in all Kindle books for business entrepreneurship, and then it got to quite high up in small business only, and on entrepreneurship it got to 16. So it did rather well, I think, for the 5 days that it was on promotion. So I'm pleased with that. And then I've also come over all queer, Judith, and I've announced a workshop And
I saw that. Yes, is it Gatwick?
Yes, you might come just for old time's sake.
Oh no! When it's when you come back, isn't it? When is it?
Well, it's going to be one of the last 2 weeks of April. The weekend.
Yeah. You haven't announced a date.
I've announced that it's happening, and I've asked people to opt in and tell me what their preferred date is.
Okay.
So it'll be one of those 2 weekends, depending on how many, most people.
So just let's recap there. You've asked people to choose which of the last 2 weekends of April they prefer.
It's a dangerous game because obviously the people who say they prefer a weekend might not go on to book, but it's a way of leading people gently through a sales process in a very laid back and attractive fashion. And I'm getting the whole process from Dean Jackson, who is the chap who worked with Joe Polish a lot. You know Joe Polish, who taught all the carpet cleaners in America to be better business people?
No, but what I want to know is what are you going to teach?
Okay, so in the workshop, I'm going to cover the whole thing that I've done in the last 2 to 3 months, which is setting up a marketing process for a new business from scratch, covering things like, having a V-zine, having an app, creating content from 1 hour a week like we do for the podcast, perhaps doing an interview podcast or blogging interview questions to people and turning that into content. So I'm combining the experience that I got with Neil, turning his 2 blog posts into a marketing machine that went everywhere, and the experience I've had in the last 3 months turning our podcast and the interview series of podcasts into a book and an app and a V-zine and all that business.
Okay.
So I'm quite... But the interesting thing, Judith, is a week ago I wouldn't have even considered it. I must be feeling a lot better because it popped into my head and it seemed like a good idea rather than an appalling idea that I would never even consider.
Yeah.
And so that's rather nice because it means that I'm growing and getting better.
Okay.
It's also going to form the middle part of my new Pivot Point program, which is a 6-week program, and it's going to have mindset at the beginning and money at the end. But this sort of middle section is the marketing section. So I'll be filming it, and it'll form part of that program content as well.
Okay.
Okay, so let's crack on with what's fueled your fire this week. 2
things. One is that email that I shared in our group from Chloe, who's a listener. Hi, Chloe. Thank you for writing in. She wrote in to me to say, do you remember me from 12 years ago? You gave me some coaching when I was in a particular place in my life. I do remember Chloe very well, not just from 12 years ago, but we worked together for the best part of a decade leading up to that 12 years ago, and she's a lovely girl, and you enjoyed the piece of writing of hers that she shared, if not the topic.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that was the first one. The second one, I'm going to give you a guarded version of the news that I told you over the weekend, and I've told all of my clients as well, but I want to tell the podcasters, but I don't want to reveal more than I'm allowed, which is at Close of Business Friday. I had an email from a national radio station asking if I would consider being a regular expert and that they would pay me money for that and send a car every time.
Nice. The car's the bit that's the best bit, isn't it?
Well, it is for you. It's not for me because I'd rather drive myself anyway. Didn't you read that blog post last week about driving to Vauxhall?
Of course I did. Honestly, genius bit of writing that blog post.
I honestly couldn't bear to sit in the back of the car. Once Virgin Upper Class sent a chauffeur to take me to Heathrow Airport. The man didn't know the way, for heaven's sake! I can't think of anything more stressful than being driven. That somebody said that they insist on doing this to make sure that you arrive, but I think after a while they'll trust me to get myself there. Now, there is a problem with this, of course, which is, and you asked the question straight away, how does this fit in with your move? And the fact is, I've no idea, because if my move is overseas, that's not going to work. But nice to be asked. And I don't know what the future holds for me geographically for 2017 and beyond. I might be here until, say, December the 1st, which is a good time to go and live in the Caribbean because it's hurricanes in the summer, and we're coming up to late spring now, so it could be. I don't know. The point is, I've said, yes, please, and somebody else is going to talk to me, and I have to do, one show to see if they like me first. But I was saying to Alice yesterday that, we've had a lot of debates on this podcast about what's in it for us, and you're very clear about what's in it for you. It makes content for you. There have been times when I've thought, I'm not quite sure why we're doing this, but what was in it for me was that lots of my clients, of whom I'm very fond, enjoy it. And so I turn up every Wednesday and you and I have a chat, and then we do the work that we do that's connected with it. And, but it hasn't brought me anything of the things on my list, except at my wish list, until after we've done 118 shows. And if you think about, our clients, our listeners, ourselves, and how quickly we give up on things, this is what I wanted to come out of it. And I stated a year ago that it was one of my goals for 2016. It didn't happen in 2016. I stated about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, it's one of my goals for 2017. It looks like there's a possibility it might happen in 2017. But this is our 119th show. And, you've got to stick at things, haven't you?
Are you saying then that that the invitation came from the podcast?
No, I'm not saying that, no. But, if you go to my website, there's a page which offers me in this, and it's been on my website for a very long time. Eventually talk to a human being, I will ask. But if anybody's done any research and wanted to listen to me before they wrote me that email, then on my website there's plenty of opportunity for me to do that.
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting, that we talk about this. You've got to get it out there, haven't you? And you've got to get out there examples of what you can do, because otherwise people simply don't know. Phoebe's had an approach from someone who wants her to review a product for them. And, they were quite impressed with their 81 subscribers or 82 subscribers. And she wasn't very impressed, but they were. So, you just don't know what people will find in what you do. They'll find what they need.
And another thing, actually, is that I had considered, before this email came in, it had fleeted through my mind and offer myself as an expert to various radio things, because quite a lot of my clients eventually reach the conclusion that the best way to get what they want is not to wait for it to come to them, but to go and pitch to people they would like to sponsor them, people they would like to write for, people they would like to work with, under my, enthusiasm, of course. But it's like, well, let's just go and ask, can I come and be an expert on your radio show?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, so I have similar things that fueled my fire this week.
Marvellous. Tell me.
In one 24-hour space of time, I heard from 2 ex-clients. Literally, one said that she's now financially free, having followed some advice that I gave her back in Money Gym days. Or it might have been just after Money Gym days, actually. I think I'm not going to say who it is, but she had a lot of equity in a property that she was sitting on, and she couldn't sell right then because I don't think she was in a financial position to do the repairs that were needed. And I just said, well, why don't you refinance to get some of this out and stop, stressing about having money to live on right now? And she did that a long time ago. But what it did lead to was her finding some very, very good financial advisors who've then continued to advise her for the last 10 years. And now she's in a position to make some investments that are actually going to make her financially free. And it was wonderful that she wrote to me and said, this is all from a conversation I had with you a long time ago. So thank you for that. And the nice thing is she's now moving into a brand new business. So I hope to be able to work with her on the marketing side of that.
Oh, cool.
The other client was one who, she was one of mine. Do you remember I had 2 or 3 VIP clients last January who came down to Shoreham for the day? And this was actually one who I went to go and see themselves, which was really proved the point, because I got hopelessly lost. It ended up being about an hour late, which was awful. I was awfully stressed, I remember. But, I got there. We had a fantastic day. I continued to work with her. But then, as is the way with some clients, she just sort of faded away. She just didn't feel that she was doing as much as she could. She didn't really believe that the things I'd asked her to do would make any difference. She just eventually got to the point where she just stopped coming for calls. And, you follow up as much as you can, but you can't actually physically turn up on people's doorsteps and say, turn up to coaching.
No, indeed, you can't.
So I just sort of let her slip away, really. But, I was absolutely delighted. And in fact, funny enough, she popped up on Messenger late at night, not realising there was a 2-hour time difference, and I was actually in bed. I thought it was one of the kids, so that's why I answered it. And it turned out to be this client who said, did you get my email? And I said, no, I didn't. Otherwise, I would have replied. But she said, well, I'm sure I didn't think you got my email because, I would have thought you would have replied. And basically, all of the things that I suggested she do in her business she'd done, and it was making a major difference. It was transforming her business. It was things like 10 timesing, what she was charging for certain things, where she was delivering so much value to clients, and they were paying something like $4.75 a month or something ridiculous. So, I'd really encouraged her to look at her pricing, and she'd done that eventually over the last year, and it's making a tremendous difference, and she wanted to thank me for that. So
very good.
Really nice.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. Would you like to hear about 18 proven ways to enjoy a successful location-independent business and the freedom to live wherever you like? Own It The Summit is a pack of 18 dynamite interview recordings with globally successful entrepreneurs, sharing their secrets of the real laptop lifestyle. We handpicked each of these people to interview to show you how to set yourself free to design your ideal lifestyle, whether working from home or travelling the world, while running a successful virtual business that you absolutely love. Just visit ownitthesummit.com and get your hands on these life-changing recordings today. Okay, so client challenge of the week then. I've got a corker for you.
Oh, I thought you might have, because you've been very quiet for the last couple of days. Yeah.
Well, I've actually got a few lined up now, but this one is an interesting one. It's come from an experience I've had this week where someone has been popping up on, in fact, they hooked me in with the promise of a 300,000 database that they had access to, and they wanted to help the owner of this database monetize on a joint venture basis. And they were asking me, what they should do. And this woman is extremely capable in the corporate space. And actually, she's got the opposite problem to the one most people have got, which is that she's got access to lots of hot, hungry leads that have just bought something. And she was trying to help people, the owners of these lead generating companies, if you like, monetize them. But I spent 2 hours with her. I then spent a further hour with her. And then I got to the point where I was thinking, this is taking up an awful lot of my time that I would normally charge people for. So I had to say, you've got to join my membership, or I can't keep having these calls, because, it's about brain picking. That's the challenge. How do you, and you must get it as well, and I know some of your clients do, when people keep popping up and asking questions, how do you politely steer them into a vehicle that enables you to help them on an unlimited basis without seeming like you're trying to sell them something?
I don't think there's any shame or difficulty or problem with offering to sell somebody something. That's what you do for a living, isn't it?
No, I know. I don't have a problem with it. Okay, here's the thing. It was couched as, here's an opportunity for both of us. So, and because the numbers were so large, and because it involved customers, not just leads, I did spend the first couple of hours, and I actually gave her a fantastic strategy to take back to this chap. And I said, here's what I do. You've got 3 options basically, and I gave her these 3 options, and I said, right, now go and talk to him and see which one he prefers.
Yes.
She kept coming back and asking me more and more and more questions that eventually moved into, one-to-one coaching, basically.
Yes. And did you have a sense that, I think the notes that I've written down here is JV, and we knew a man whose business it was to put together JVs. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
And if it's your business, well, actually, we knew 2 people. You knew to do JVs, then you're endlessly available with your expertise, particularly more so than mine. You are at risk of being approached by people under the exciting cloak of a JV, but that may or may not be honest, whether they realise it or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was what was so difficult about this. She was so enthusiastic and so
yeah. So I'm thinking of another person with whom we both did business unsatisfactorily in the year I was 50, and I'm going to be 62 this year, so 12 years ago. You and I both did business with a woman who shafted us both, and JV was the word that was bandied about then as well. So beware people who propose a JV if you think they're trying to get something for nothing. I'm not sure this woman you're describing was trying to get something for nothing. It just ended up feeling like that for you quite quickly.
Yeah, totally not. And that's what I mean. It was the you know, she had access to an asset. She was trying very genuinely to earn a living, you know, as we all do, by turning that asset into an income generating opportunity for the person who owned the asset. But because she didn't know an awful lot about the process of how that would be done, I ended up, you know, talking her through it and then giving her 3 options to go back to him with. And I'm really very hyper vigilant about this thing. It didn't, you know, it wasn't brain picking initially. It was, you know, a genuine joint venture opportunity. Is this possible? How would it work? You know, what do I say to this chap? But as the days went on, it became more one-to-one coaching than anything else. So, and I do believe that people, you know, and I recognise myself in her. I recognise the enthusiasm. I recognise the, you know, 20 years ago, I was that person. I was trying to make it happen. I was hustling. I was trying to catch people. But I just wondered, you know, how you've got your pay what you want session, haven't you? Which I suppose.
Well, the first call I do with everybody is free. And it's designed to actually it's less these days, designed to make sure it's a good fit. I don't really get people wanting to become clients who aren't a good fit anymore, to be honest. I don't know why that is, it's a good thing. But the first one's always free, so people can always pick my brains for free the first time around. After that, if you've had your free one, you've either got to join one of my paying groups or book a pay what you want. And people do book pay what you want. And the pay what you want, they're using like a consultant, which I like.
Yeah. And, you know, actually this lady subsequently joined my membership because I said, I can't keep doing this I can't keep talking about this complicated, huge questions she was asking. I can't keep doing these huge, complicated questions on Messenger. You've got to join the group. Then I can answer unlimited questions and she said, why would you do it in there and not here? And I said, because everybody else can learn. You know, if I put it in my membership site, it's keyword searchable now. So if someone searches joint venture, they're now going to start coming up this conversation. They'll see this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think people just don't realise that, you know, you need to be either creating content or getting paid for your time.
Yes. Can I ask about the woman herself? You're implying she's younger.
Oh, well, yeah, everyone's younger than me.
And did you get any sense that she was hard up?
I get the distinct sense she's going to have to learn to DIY, which is another big challenge because obviously, you know, coming from a standing start of no techie knowledge at all, apart from copying and pasting in emails, I suspect, it's going to be a massive challenge. Unless she can afford to outsource.
Yes.
They're terrified to outsource in the early days, aren't they?
Yes. I mean, obviously, if she didn't want to discuss it in a group, then you don't have a consultancy offer, do you, where people can work with you one-to-one outside?
I do.
Oh, well, there's that. Yeah. I think the difficulty is when it starts off with one conversation and then it morphs into something else where the discomfort develops, isn't it? Is that you and I both, I don't think, would see that coming because we'd be so excited about her and her business proposition.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the challenge. It's to rein in your own enthusiasm and keep an eye on the clock. Basically.
Well, I wouldn't actually. I tell you what, I wouldn't. I tell you what we're discussing again. We're discussing discomfort with uncomfortable feelings. And we don't notice in the first one because we're just adrenaline rush about the opportunity. And then it creeps up on us and then it's like, oh, now I've got a problem. So I've given her too much. How do I rein it back in? And I remember always that the wording is, this is what I do for a living. Would you like to join this or this or this?
Yeah. Oh, I don't have a problem with how much I give at all. I mean, if my mouth opens and the words come out, you're welcome to them.
Yeah.
But it's just about and the other thing is it's awfully distracting when someone keeps popping up on Microsoft Messenger with another question.
Yes, I wouldn't allow that by and large, Nicola. I do allow my clients to do that. I don't allow strangers to do that, really.
Well, I get quite a few of those gentlemen strangers now.
Well, I don't know. I delete them. I don't have any truck with them at all.
So how do you just not, if someone
it doesn't really happen to me anymore. I think my boundaries are a bit more robust.
Okay, so technically speaking, how do you stop complete strangers from trying to message you on Facebook?
You can just, Facebook says, do I want to accept or ignore? And I ignore. Okay. Press the button marked ignore.
So you don't have a worry that might be a client? potential client that you're ignoring?
Not a bloke who's pretending to work for the UN but uses a spelling error in his sentence. No, I don't.
I got the CEO of Tesco's.
Exactly, I got him this week, and didn't he had a spelling error, didn't he?
No, forget about the blokes. What about if the person who's trying to contact you is a female who perhaps knows 6 to 10 to 20 of your friends? Don't you have a concern?
I don't have those. The only people that contact me on Facebook Messenger are colleagues and these weirdos.
Okay.
So I think the question you're asking me is people I don't know on Facebook Messenger. By and large, no.
Okay.
I mainly block them.
Okay. So coming back to the brain picking.
Yeah.
You know, if someone is experiencing this, where someone who knows is a friend of a friend, perhaps, or a friend of a colleague, starts to ask questions, and you're happy to give them a bit of their time. How do you? So when they keep popping up, you just say, what was your phrase you used? This is what I do for a living.
Well, my website is perfectly clear. The first one is always free. After that, you can join a group, or you can pay what you want on an ad hoc basis.
And do you find that people go and read your website? Because this person has...
Well, I've made my copy very short and above the fold on all of my pages.
Right.
And actually, nobody's asked this for ages. I tell you what it is. I think I've got if you're very clear yourself, all your energy is very clear. And so it stops happening.
Okay.
I think that's the only... I can remember. No, I can't remember. And it probably did happen. I was going to say I remember it used to happen. I can't remember it happening. But it probably did. Now, the thing that comes to mind is that fantastic article I always share with people when clients tell me this story by David McQueen called The £500 Cup of Coffee. And I saw Rachel Elmore moaning about this recently. It happens to people. If you've got any kind of expertise or profile, people try to pick your brains for free or try to pick your brains. And either you allow it within reason or don't allow it or stick them through your system.
Yeah, I think because I'm on a business building phase. I'm outward facing at the moment, isn't it? So that's why my energy's attracting people. I think because I've got potential opportunity all over me, written all over me.
Well, I think this was a good example. And actually, after the first free one, I would be putting her in the membership. The membership site's very affordable, isn't it?
I know it's incredibly affordable, and I can spend as much time as I.
Quite, isn't it $47.50 or something?
It's $79.
Yeah, I'd stick them in there from the second time onwards.
Well, that's what it's there for, to be honest.
Yeah, it's incredibly cheap, $79. Get them in there fast.
Yeah, that's exactly the plan. Okay, so I'm not sure if this will come out anything worth using, but I'll do my very best.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. You know, what do you do when people want to pick your brains and what you are as a consultant for a living? It's the first one's always free, then move them into something paid as fast as possible, I think.
Yeah. Word of the week, then. What's your word of the week?
My word of the week is word or words, I think. I seem to have fallen deeply back in love again, if I ever lost the love for words. And as a teenager, I wanted to be a journalist. I'm not sorry I haven't gone on to become a journalist because they're one of the most hated professions in the universe now. But the written word, as in my blog and my newsletter, the spoken word when I'm talking to clients, when I'm talking to you, and now my radio invitation, words. I'm all about words. I'm back deeply in love with words.
I'm pretty sure you've used that one before, but I'll let you have it.
Well, I might have to use it again. And I did say, if I was revamping my website, and I don't rule that out, very attracted by Nicola Bird's offering, for instance.
Nice, yeah.
If I was revamping my website, I would probably make it all about the written word and the spoken word now. Is it a platform or a theme?
Yeah, theme. The theme.
Yeah. Actually, no. That might be a challenge for another week. Do we care about themes being SEO friendly anymore? I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer?
Yeah, I don't care because I drive my own traffic.
Well, there you go. Right. Give me your word of the week.
Rejuvenated. Okay. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm feeling like I'm a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. I'm feeling that this period in Greece has done its job and I am ready to return to the real world. I'm feeling...
Well, literally, I think it means younger, doesn't it, rejuvenated?
Sorry?
I think literally rejuvenated means I'm feeling younger.
Oh, I'm definitely not feeling that.
Well, I think you might have misused the word then. I think juvenile, I think it means I'm feeling younger. But I know what you mean. You're feeling like a new woman.
Transform? What word do I need to be using then?
I think you'll find if you look up rejuvenated, it means made younger.
Well, I think I'm using it in this case that I feel like I've returned to a more energetic, more energetic former self.
Refreshed?
Yes.
Not quite what you meant though, refreshed, is it?
No. I feel like I've returned to my old self.
Yes, I wonder what that word is. Return to my old self.
I'll leave it with you.
Yeah.
Good. Project updates. Let's talk about iTunes, no change. Push Crew, 42 subscribers. And when people, 26 are still receiving our notifications of new episodes. And
what's the difference between the 26 and the 42?
Well, because I suspect that 42 people have said, yes, I'll take, we only do a push once a week, don't we, when we get a new episode on. I don't do any other pushes in between. But I suspect that 26 are the people who are still receiving our pushes.
It says delivered, interestingly.
Yeah.
So they might have put in a Duff email address or something.
Yeah, well, it's not about that. It's delivered on their browser.
Okay, so the difference between 26 and 42 is that those ones weren't delivered.
Yeah, that's right. And whether that's because they perhaps use a different browser and swap browsers and things like that.
Yes.
It's only
okay.
Chrome, I think.
Okay.
And out of the 26, one clicked. So that's a 4% click-through on a push notification.
Okay.
People are starting to say that these push notifications are starting to annoy people and that they're getting the law of diminishing returns. They're getting people subscribing, but then they're not getting delivered to as many people. But other people are saying that as long as your numbers are growing, as long as this number grows, you're still reaching more people than you would have done anyway.
Yes, lists by other names, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We've had a 1 subscribed today and now unsubscribed. So there you go. We've grown by 1. On the Libsyn front, we had that lovely spike that we've never found out why it was caused. I think it was, this is just my thought, that it was about finding the perfect VA. I think it was just perhaps an episode that everyone's interested in, got shared a lot. Because a spike was on the... Let's have a look when the spike was. It was the 31st of January, and I think the episode before that, the Friday, was finding the perfect VA.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, which is a topic everyone's really interested in.
Oh, maybe.
Don't know.
No, we don't. And that's the annoying thing about all of this. It's so imprecise, isn't it, in podcasting?
I know, it is, yes, absolutely. I mean,
that's really annoying, and I don't believe there's any reason for it to be so imprecise. I just think there's lack of joined-up thinking in this, because in every other area of content, I just think it's an annoying aspect of the podcast.
It is, and I can't even see what's happening this week because my internet's so shabby.
It won't load. I can see. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to who or what's impressed then.
I can't even read my notes here. It says we are in the middle. Oh, yes, we are in the middle of a real purple patch for films. I've seen 4 stonking ones in the last week. I've seen all my Oscars films 2 weeks early, so that was ready for the BAFTAs. The BAFTAs were great. I was so excited. Fences with Denzel Washington. Moonlight, oh, wonderful. Hacksaw Ridge, didn't even think I would like it, loved it. Denial, oh, great. I mean, I've seen a dozen films since Christmas. I don't have the energy for that every year, but 11 out of 12 of them were fantastic. It's just a wonderful, creative time to be alive in the film industry right now.
Wow. Okay, so I've got all those to look forward to when they get onto Netflix and things.
Yes.
Or when I get home, in fact.
Indeed.
Yeah, kids saw one the other day that made them all cry.
Yes.
The one about the fact that was set in India.
Lion, yes, and he won the BAFTA. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, they all love that. Okay, I'm reading a book at the moment called Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. And I'm really liking it a lot. It's saying about how I think this is one of the reasons I got a bit triggered by the constant Facebook Messenger messages, because I was trying to do a bit of deep work at the time, and I actually noticed it took me a good 3 to 4 minutes to get back into what I was doing after the latest message pinged. And so I would strongly advise, if you're trying to do some deep work, i.e. work that requires a long period of concentration, turn off all your devices, because it really did throw me, that one. So, but yeah, great book, really good. Lots of examples of people doing deep work, including people like Leonardo da Vinci and Newton and people like that. It's a bit like, all the people who meditate also do this whole thing. In fact, one chap, it quoted in the book, actually built himself a tower in the bottom of his garden so he could go in there and do his concentrating thinking and lock everybody out, which I found quite... And
our digital equivalent is turning off Facebook, so they can't interrupt you when you're doing that kind of thinking.
Yeah, totally, yes. But my deep work involves being on Facebook, remember, because I'm a Facebook expert.
Yeah, well, then you need to find a way of turning off. You can turn off Messenger, can't you?
Well, I'm going to in future, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's all about how the flow. It's about getting into flow, essentially, and how you need to create the right conditions for you to get into flow, because otherwise you'll just be incapable of doing, projects that involve long periods of concentration.
Well, I think that subtitle about a distracted world is exactly the point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly don't know how people work in offices or where they have music playing in the background. It would drive me absolutely bonkers.
I don't think they all have music playing in the background. My niece works at Barclays Bank. I don't imagine they play music in the background.
I have to work in silence, so...
Yeah, but that's because we're slightly old. I have to work in silence as well, because we like to work the way we've always worked, and we were trained to work before the internet and before the thought of double multitasking, and before mobile phones could interrupt you incessantly, and before, your friends could talk to you at work. Even your mum phoning was a bit embarrassing. I don't know if you remember that. And, we didn't have distractions. And that's why actually we have the ability to focus, and we can get back to it if we turn these things off.
Yes, it's very true. Very true. I mean, Phoebe works on her film editing with two of her mates chatting away in the background and Nelson popping in and out.
Well, they've learned different ways, and I think everybody's proven now it isn't a better way, it's just a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's us done then. We've battled through the...
We have battled through, yes. Don't imagine it's the end of that, because as you come back, I might be going abroad, but there we go.
Yeah, we'll crack on with it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
See you next week, Dom. Yeah. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.